Hi, welcome to Translating Interview Speak, what your interviewer really wants to know. Chapter 5. We're Barbara Limmer and Laura Brown, and we're here to help you get your next job. Today, we're going to continue in part 2 of the book, which are translations. And in Chapter 5, we're going to help translate questions about leadership, hiring, and motivating skills questions. Let's go ahead and get started. One of the first questions that you might be asked is, what is your leadership style? And really, what the interviewer is looking for here is they're saying to themselves, I need to know what kind of leader you are so I can determine whether you'll fit in with our culture and our people. So, how do you answer? Now, you have to be careful here because you should not say any one leadership style because that could pigeonhole you in one area. Instead, it's a better way to say that you understand different people need different things and that you modify your approach depending on what the situation is and what the people need that are involved in this. And then you want to give some specifics. For example, you might say something like, well, with experienced people who are performing well, I take more of a hands-off approach. But with people who are new or maybe not performing well and need a little more help, I monitor their work closely and provide coaching and mentoring. So this way, you're letting them know that you can work with everybody on the team and on other teams.
Here's another question for leaders and managers. Discuss a situation in which you are able to create a high level of trust, morale, and team spirit. Here's the translation of that question. We need a leader who can create an environment of trust and team spirit, who can improve morale around here. Can you give an example that demonstrates that you can do that? So, how do you answer that question? Well, provide a situation where either you were new to the team and had to build trust with new people, or morale and team spirit were low and you needed to do something about that. So, what did you do or say to create an environment where people felt good about their jobs and their contributions? Include concrete outcomes. For example, were there any employee surveys done or 360-degree performance reviews that showed increased metrics, quantified results, or broader improved business metrics? Here's another question. Describe a difficult experience you've had while leading a group with different opinions and personalities. What issues arose and how did you resolve them? Here's what the question really means. We have some people here who have strong personalities and aren't afraid to speak up when they disagree or have differing opinions. I need to know that A, you're comfortable in that environment, and B, you can work through and resolve people issues that might arise. So, how do you answer this question? You need to provide an example where the people involved fit that description of having differing opinions and personalities. Describe the disagreements or conflicts that came up and what you did or said to work through them to a positive resolution. Here's another question. What kinds of things have you done to both attract new talent and guard against poor hires? The translation of that is, the person in this role will be hiring people, and we need to make sure they can do that effectively and not cause problems by bringing in people who don't fit in or can't do their jobs. So, what do you do to ensure people will want to work for you, and what is your hiring and selection process? So, how do you answer this? Now, I want to make a point here. Earlier, we talked about translating general questions into specifics. So just because they're asking, so what have you done? Let all the other candidates talk about what they've done in general. What you're going to do is give a real example, and you might need to give sort of a transition statement. So, what have you done? Well, I think the best way to answer that is to tell you about the time in my last position when I needed to hire 3 people in a short time frame. See how that's translating a general question so that you can give a specific example. And in that example, you're going to give the background, what made the situation challenging, what you did to attract candidates, what your selection and interviewing process was, and how many people at your company were involved in the interviews. State the results, the time frame in which you hired them, and feel free to talk about how successful they were or still are at your organization. That will give your answer impact.
Here's another question. What do you do to create an environment that inspires and motivates your team? So, what does the interviewer want to know? They're thinking, we need an inspirational leader in this role who can improve the team's motivation, or if it's already good, someone who won't lower the morale of the team. So, provide an example that demonstrates these leadership attributes. Let's talk about how to answer. So again, you want to make sure that you're giving a specific example. And you could think about a time where either you were new to the team and you had to improve performance, or maybe it was a situation where morale was low due to circumstances outside your control. So you want to get back to what did you do or what did you say to create an environment where people felt good about their jobs, they felt good about themselves, and maybe they felt good about contributions to the team. And it would be really helpful to include any concrete outcomes, maybe anecdotes about what people later said as evidence that you inspired and motivated team members. That, people talked about this or people talked about that. So again, it's not just you because you're talking about what the effect was on that team. So the interviewer can think, okay, that's the effect it can have on our team. So those are some tips from chapter 5. What's next is chapter 6. We're going to talk about problem solving, time management, negotiation, and change questions. And we're going to help you to understand how to answer questions about how you make decisions, how you manage time, and how you solve problems with others. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like and share. And don't forget, you can get a discount at Manning.com with interview help. We'll see you at the next video. Thank you.